welcome to BERNAMA today. Joining us, Elena Robla as well as Jessie Chahal. It's a wonderful Wednesday and it's an exciting day.
Absolutely. I think everyone's a bit perked up, especially what's going on in the news as well. We're seeing, something that has never happened in Malaysian history happen today. Right or wrong, we'll have to wait to see how things pan out. Of course, I'm talking about the ex-Prime Minister being arrested and taken to court earlier this morning.
That's right. But if you're just joining us, you can catch us on various platforms. So if you're on the go, you're on the hunt, you're following any of the reports, we're on live on web TV. It's bernama.com. If you are on channel 631 on Unified TV or 121 on My TV. So all platforms, you can still catch us and keep up to date.
Absolutely.
With all the little details that we'll share with you.
That's right. And if you want the latest as we cover live as we did this morning, Elaine, it was really interesting because our news crew actually mounted on our vehicle, tracked and followed the convoy of the ex-Prime Minister to the court. And it was quite nerve-wracking to see the whole thing. So you can of course follow us on Facebook Live as well if you really want to see what we're doing on the ground.
Which takes us to the first story because we have lots to go through today. The ex-Prime Minister, of course, everyone knows, has been arrested. Datuk Sri Najib Tun Razak was arrested by MACC at his home, Jalan Langgak Duta residence in Kuala Lumpur. And he's expected to face more than 10 charges in relation to transactions involving the SRC International, which is a former 1MDB subsidiary.
That's right. Now, the MACC had also grilled his stepson, Riza Aziz, who investigators believe is a beneficiary of the allegedly misappropriated 1MDB funds. Of course, he also runs a Hollywood production company, and one of the biggest productions was
Hollywood's
The
Wolf of Wall Street,
that's right,
with Leonardo DiCaprio, of course.
That's right.
And of course, UMNO Supreme Council member Lokman Nur Adam led a solidarity rally for Najib outside the MACC headquarters, where demonstrators also called for the arrest of Prime Minister Dr. Mahathir Mohamad. So, tit for tat, it looks like.
That's right. Well, he did have some amount of supporters out there, but also, according to some international coverage, that as many supporters as there were there at the courts today, there were double or triple that amount who were saying that justice must prevail.
And we, of course, had headlines coming from all over the world. Everybody
right.
is talking about this story. We're making headlines, not necessarily for the right reasons for this time around, but it has been a story that has gripped the world and everybody wants to know. Hence, this day is interesting because it's progress. People can see that there's steps being taken. Whatever the courts decide, that's due process. But the headlines from Reuters says Malaysian ex-Prime Minister Najib arrested in stunning fall from grace.
That's right. But moving on from that, something else that's making not just headlines here but around the world, of course, talking about the World Cup. Have you been following the World Cup?
I've caught bits and pieces.
Yep.
I know who has qualified for a few of it. I've not watched any of it in full, but there have been very interesting scores. World Cup is one that you always see, you can never expect who's actually going to make it.
That's right. And
Russia, the host, has actually made it into the next round.
That's right, and that hasn't been true for this particular World Cup, where it seems to be the reign of the underdogs. A lot of the, big champions, so to say, strong contenders, have not been able to secure their places. But here we talk about England finally overcame nearly 30 years of penalty pain, rather, when they beat Colombia 4-3 in a shootout on Tuesday after drawing the World Cup last 16 clash.
That's right. Finally, England sort of broke a sort of penalty curse. So the clash of 1-1 following extra time after the South Americans had equalized in the 93rd minute. That must have been painful for them. They thought they had made it, and then there goes in that goal.
That's
and
right.
We're down to the penalty shootout, and they of course breathed a sigh of relief having made it through after that. But of course, Sweden versus Switzerland was last night. Sweden made it through 1-0, as you can see here. They're celebrating, of course.
Okay, so what's coming up next? We have the quarterfinals and Uruguay versus France, Brazil versus Belgium, Sweden versus England, and Russia versus Croatia.
So of this 1, 2, 3, 4 matches, which are the ones that you're looking at? The interesting one, of course, is Sweden versus England, Brazil versus Belgium, Uruguay versus France. I think that's the first match that will be quite hotly contested.
Yeah, true. Well, I don't know actually. I have no idea.
I'm keen to see what Russia and Croatia will be like, so that will be quite interesting. Russia looks like they're, gunning it because they're the hosts, it's like home pride, whatever it takes, they're trying to make it through to the next round. I have a feeling Russia versus Croatia, Russia's going to give it their all and they're going to try to make it through to the next semis.
That's right. But Elaine, as we have seen, and I think we will continue seeing throughout the World Cup until the grand finals, is that anything can happen. Surprises.
That's right. That's one of the things about sports. Which takes us to the next story. Police arrest 39 individuals involved in illegal World Cup betting.
That's right. It is illegal. The police have detained 39 suspects, they say, for their involvement in illegal betting fixtures, with total bets amounting to beat this 1.8 million ringgit.
That's small. I'm sure it's more that's unreported.
That's
now,
right.
Penang Police Chief Dr. A. Taivigan said all 39 individuals aged between 20 and 60 were arrested in 36 raids conducted around the state in the operation codenamed Ops Soga. And this was started on the 14th of June, the first day of the World Cup itself, and will end on the 28th of June.
That's right. So they have found that many of the raids were conducted, that they did at the coffee shops and business premises, were based on their intelligence and surveillance, and they found out that the bookmakers collected wages between anything from 1 ringgit up to 5,000 ringgit.
I tell you, when people gamble, they gamble on anything that's possible. Of course, this is World Cup, so there's a lot for you to be able to gamble. Numbers, how many goals, who wins, and whatever not. I'm sure there are people who bet, like, which pet octopus is going to predict, or which dog is going to predict who is going to win. There's all sorts of forms.
That's right, all sorts of entertainment. But apparently people bet on little things who, they even like to...
The coin toss.
The coin toss thing.
Yes.
In a small town here in Malaysia, they in fact bet on the first drop of rain.
Right. Oh dear.
Yeah, they sit at a coffee shop and they all kind of bet at
when
what time the first drop of rain, and then they watch a spot, and the one person who gets that right wins a bet. So
there you go. Men and their gambling. I'm talking about men in general, not men or women.
Yes,
included.
Let's not get sensitive here.
Right. Okay. Let's talk about money. We're talking about the Works Ministry. The Ministry of Works needs at least 2 billion ringgit annually to repair and maintain damaged federal roads nationwide. That's quite a hefty sum. This according to the minister.
That's right. Here we see the newly minted Minister Barubian is said over the past 3 years the KKR had only received an estimated 600 to 800 million annually for maintenance of these roads. Even though several applications to increase its allocations were made, we understand that this is not a cheap affair. It is a costly affair that spreads wide as well. So it will need a good amount of budget allocation. He also said that he understands why the roads we have are now patched only because the allocation given is not sufficient. In fact, it doesn't even reach 15% of what is needed.
Now let's talk about this. At the end of the day, roads need to be maintained, but there must be a more creative way of managing this because it's climate, it's rain, it's usage, the vehicles that you allow on certain roads. So there should be, I think, a certain amount of budget allocated for increasing its longevity and looking at what kind of vehicles. So hence, public transportation is one of the things that we're trying to look at in order to reduce the road usage or road a regular utility at the end of the day. So one of the things that they have to relook at, I'm hoping that there will be some sort of research done in order for them to be able to find more creative ways to manage this. Asking for money is not really just the solution.
Right. I get what you're saying, but I think at this point also chicken and egg. We really need to fix some roads first, potholes of course being such a huge issue, and then maybe look at how we can restructure transportation, the mediums, whether it's highways or normal roads, with the heavy vehicles or public transportation, buses for example, on a different lane and regular cars on a different lane, and so on and so forth.
That's right. So what I'm looking for is that yes, with the additional budget that's requested, 2 billion, use that to patch, use that to improve, but also use it to creatively manage, find out new methods that could have a longer term impact on
right, because
so that the maintenance lowers over the years.
Until then we're just kind of not finding a solution to to
Correct.
the problem.
That's right. So now, quickly moving on, we have, of course, a new youth minister, the youngest
That's
minister
right.
as well.
Super exciting. And if we can have one of the oldest prime ministers in the region or in the world, I think we should also look at how we can give a young person that chance. And of course, I'm sure that the prime minister has also picked wisely. Syed Saddiq has not only taken over Khairi Jamaluddin's youth and sports role, but also broken his record as the youngest youth and sports minister in the cabinet.
And he has this to say. He tweets saying that he has big shoes to fill, filling in, of course, outgoing youth minister, that's Khairi Jamaluddin. Syed Saddiq has not only taken over his role, and at the age of 37 in 2013, broken that record, as you mentioned earlier.
Yep.
The Rembau Member of Parliament also had nice words for the Muar MP. He said, "Congratulations, Syed Saddiq, on your appointment as the new Youth and Sports Minister. I pray that you will bring greater success to the ministry."
So what a gentlemanly handover.
No, that should be the case.
Yeah, that should be the case.
And what's interesting is that I was thinking about this, that it is big shoes to fill, because Khairi did a great job with the last especially SEA Games. The next SEA Games is going to be one that you were defending. Malaysia won the last SEA Games. We made the most medals. So there's a lot of work to be done and a lot of things to look into, because I believe that he needs a lot of work for the youth, not just sports itself,
That's
but
right.
mindset change.
Absolutely. So it's internal as well as external, and trying to grow the sort of the flagship projects that they have been working on, and of course trying to cultivate some of his own as well. It is going to be a steep learning curve nonetheless, but I guess that in it all is what New Malaysia is all about.
That's right. Big portfolio, big shoes to fill, and I look forward to big results as well. Now, we'll take a short breather right now. When we come back, we have more stories to share with you. Stay tuned. We will be right back. Hello, and thanks for staying with us on BERNAMA today. You're still with me, Elena Abla, and in the studio I'm speaking to Farida Hamid, our leadership, and of course we're talking about leadership coach, and we're talking about the recent cabinet appointment. The recent cabinet appointment has raised a lot of questions, and one of it being one of the quotas that has been promised in the PH manifesto. Hello and welcome, Farida. It's been a pleasure having you on board again, and it's I say this quite a few times, but it's still exciting times despite after the May 9th election. We've seen a lot of changes. Today, of course, is a big day. Everybody's, of course, paying attention to the TV to see what's going to unfold in terms of the ex-Prime Minister. But it is just in the wake of the recent cabinet appointment. There's a lot of questions that have been raised about the recent cabinet appointment. They have just been sworn in recently on the 2nd of July. And those who have appointed now, of course, have a huge responsibility on their shoulders as we close in on what the Pakatan Harapan government, that their 100-day mark. So everybody is looking towards that 100-day mark before they pounce on them. So they have sort of like still a few days of honeymoon period. And of course, it comes as no surprise that not everyone is happy with the cabinet lineup. There will always be pros, cons, detractors, haters, naysayers, and whatever not, as well as the lack of the 30% quota of women in the cabinet, which was part of their manifesto. And today, we speak about our feedback or our thoughts, with regards to this. I know you believe that it's critical for women to be in leadership positions, but you say that quotas are not necessarily the best way forward. So let's start out with the cabinet appointments. Let's look at that. There has been some discontent within the parties themselves about not getting either a full minister's role or a deputy minister role. And there are complaints from some of the coalition partners that younger people who have not paid their dues apparently, and it feels it's not fair to have been given a full minister's post like that of course, the current youth minister, Syed Saddiq. What do you have to say about this?
Well, I think you are right. I mean, there is no perfect formula, and the reality is that we are hearing from the various coalition partners that some of them feel slighted, some of them feel they've not been considered based on the amount of effort they have put in, or how long they've been a politician and they've fought for a lot of things. So I think that is something that we expected to come out. But I think from a communication point of view as well, for these people who may be unhappy, I think they have to understand that the public has given the mandate to Tun to come up with the cabinet. He does have the prerogative anywhere in the world. It is always the leader who makes the final decision. Now, having said that, of course, I think if you put yourself and myself in a similar position and we feel like we've contributed so much and we did not get rewarded with the position, there is bound to be some discontent. But the reality is that what is fair is very subjective. What is fair to you and what is fair to me may be very, very different. So I think they have to understand that Tun probably had to play a bit of a chess game to get a formula that worked. And I'm very excited actually about the cabinet list. I mean, there's a couple of people that I'm very, very excited about.
You can see them on the screen right now. Who are you most excited about right now?
I'm most excited about the first Deputy Prime Minister. We've got a woman. Her deputy, who is Hannah Yeoh, who I've followed for a long time. I really like her. I think the Minister of Climate Change, Technology and Innovation, I think it's a very long title. I can't quite remember it. Yeoh Bee-yin, I think.
Yes.
And Syed Saddiq. I am very excited about some of these people. And the point really is that we have, I feel for the first time, a cabinet that reflects the society that we have today.
The faces of our people.
Yes.
If I may say, of course, a lot of us don't know these ministers well because it's from the opposition party. So a lot of people may not necessarily see them a lot in terms of, you know, what they stand for, what their policies are. So this is a good time for them to be able to now sort of like have their stand, you know, voice out so that people understand where their vision is and connect with them and relate to them. So this is the key, I don't know, at least a few months from now to be able to have people, because right now people don't know who you are, so people have a lot of things to say, because you know there's right now there's a lot of pressure on Pakatan Harapan ever since they took over from May 9th, the elections. And you cannot compare to the amount of pressure that any of the past wins that the coalition has. You know, it has not changed.
I think what is good with this lineup is that people say a lot of them don't have parliamentary experience.
Yes.
And I think that's not necessarily a bad thing.
Exactly.
Yes, many of them have never been in government. They've been in opposition. But the good thing about being in opposition is they're used to having an opinion.
And they also used to pushing boundaries, pushing walls back.
Yes.
And the average age of the cabinet member is just 55 and a half years, while 5 of the 27 member cabinet appointments have no parliamentary experience, as you mentioned.
So we have a youngish cabinet.
Yeah. So what are the potential points to look at in terms of pitfalls or successes that we could potentially see from this?
Right. I think with the younger ones who may not have they've never had any experience, firstly governing, and secondly the bureaucracy of government. They have hundreds, if not thousands, of people who are going to be under them. Some of these people are not going to be happy that they are there. Okay, so there's going to be obstacles and challenges to engage everybody and bring them on board with their thoughts. But on the positive flip side, they're brimming with ideas about things that they want to do. I give you an example, like the Minister of Climate Change. There was a study done early last year that showed that 81% of Malaysians are concerned about climate change. And we have a woman now who's in charge of climate change. She's got a master's in chemical engineering. I mean, what I like about also this lineup is that many of them are very highly educated as well. They are not career politicians. So they bring to them a lot of professional experience and qualifications, which I think is the way that governments are going anyway, because you have to bring people who know what they're talking about.
I'm agreeable to having qualified and educated people that we can now look up to, that they have some kind of background. Now, the only concern is it's never, we spoke about this before, just because you have sort of like the background in it doesn't necessarily mean you may be the best leader for the position. So we're talking about leadership right now, because this is a cabinet position, it's the leadership. Not just about, you know, giving ideas. It's about leading, as you mentioned, thousands that are under them. And I do have concerns. I will voice out my concerns. Syed Saddiq, he's very young. I don't know how he will fare. All the ones who are under 40, under 35, I don't know how they will fare in terms of leading such a large group of people. But I'm willing to give them the benefit of the doubt for them to be able to sort of like show what they're worth.
Well, so I have a piece of advice for all the ones who have never done this before. And I say this a lot to women when I coach them on leadership. You need to go for respect before like. And the one issue I saw with Syed Saddiq is I think he's trying very hard to get people to like him. He remember he said he wanted people to call him brothers Saddiq. He wanted his staff to call them. And I think he means well, but I think you're now in a position of authority that you have to go for people to respect you before they like you. Because without the respect and the credibility, it's no point people like you, because it's a totally different game now. You're leading a huge team. So I think some of the pitfalls may be that they may try too hard to get people to like them. I think the other thing is to not being cognizant enough of the fact that there are going to be many people within the hierarchy, within their ministries, that are not happy that they are there. So how do you engage them? How do you get them on board with your vision? Because there's these are career civil servants. On the good side of that, they have got all these people with so much of experience who can guide them as well. So I think it's going to be a fine line, a fine balance as to how they're going to engage these people to come on board and see their own vision as well as to where they want to take the country.
I'm hoping to see that they would not take that much time to be able to acclimatize, because they need to hit the ground running. This is not a time for you to be able to just learn the ropes, because we are appointing leaders, we're not appointing followers, or we're not appointing staff. So that's, I think, a lot of concern from the general public in terms of how much time do they need to sort of like adjust to the role before they can actually get things working?
Well, the thing about leadership is I understand that the impatience that the public has, but I think leadership itself is something it's a journey. It's constantly changing. There's no one right formula. Okay, and I think we do have to give them a little bit of time also to understand how this bureaucracy works, because remember, they're all coming from the opposition, so they've not really had to deal with this kind of bureaucracy. So I understand that the public wants results, and that is why I also believe many of these ministers need to announce pretty soon what are going to be their priorities in the next 6 months. I would suggest that they come up with nothing more than 1 or 2 priorities, rather than promising too many things and not delivering, because that is a common mistake of leadership. You come in, you're a new broom, you want to sweep clean, you want to change everything. That's not how government works. Government bureaucracy tends to move very slowly. So I would say please just focus on 1 or 2 key areas for the next 6 months and work very hard at getting results for those.
There's also 2 parts to this in terms of managing that, because there are already things that are in place that you can't just wipe clean. So it's working with what you have. So not just trying to revamp, which essentially will cause a lot more problems, but working with it, but improving it bit by bit. So perhaps that's the vision that they need to be able to work with.
I think they're all getting briefings now, and so I think they do need to decide what their priorities are going to be. And I agree with you. Even we saw with Tun and many of the projects, I mean, he couldn't, as much as perhaps he would have liked to cancel quite a few of them, the reality is many of them had moved ahead, and you can't just cancel it, right? So I think that's something that they will have to learn to navigate quite carefully.
That's right. So anyhow, thank you so much for that sort of like quick wrap. We didn't manage to touch very much about quota, about women's quota, but let's quickly, if you have a sort of like a...
Well, I'm not a big fan of the 30% quotas, simply because I think we need to focus on caliber rather than quotas. I think the DPM herself has said that she herself does not believe in quotas. And I think we have 4 full ministers who are women, and then we have 4 deputy ministers. I think those people who have been appointed are quite amazing women, and I think it is about understanding also that many of the secretary generals and many of the civil servants within the government are women as well. So I think we should not just nitpick and say, oh, we don't have enough women, but because I think we have to look at the big picture, and I think there's a lot of women in decision-making positions throughout the government. And so I'm actually very comfortable and confident. Just one other thing I want to highlight, there was an article in The Economist that came out early this year which disputed the fact that the quotas actually give results.
Yes, I'm in complete agreement. I'm not a quota fan. I believe if it's necessary, put it in. If they're not there by merit, it is not necessary to put them in. Thank you so much, Farida. That's all the time that we have. If you want to find out a little bit more about leadership and communication coaching, you can of course contact Farida. You can see the website here at faridahamid.com. We'll take a short breather right now. When we come back, we have more stories to share with you. Bye for now.